Northern Ireland's BVD programme is industry-led, and it has been developed by a BVD implementation group. AWNI, Animal Health and Welfare Northern Ireland, administers the scheme, and AWNI was set up in 2012 with the objective of promoting improved health and welfare of animals by addressing the non-regulated diseases of livestock in Northern Ireland. So we work to help both producers and processors in Northern Ireland. And the first disease that we have been tackling is BVD. So our funding came from the public purse and industry at the start, but currently and in the future, the funding will be entirely industry-derived. Our board has an independent chairman, and there are representatives of the breed societies and the processors on the board, as well as the farming unions and veterinary organisations as well. So we work in partnership with industry, with a big range of organisations, from tag suppliers and laboratories through to the Department of Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs, or DERA as it's known locally. The goals of AWNI are obviously to provide advice and assistance on the major endemic diseases of livestock within the Northern Ireland agri-food sector. And we want to provide assistance that is peer-reviewed, high quality, and internationally recognised as fit for its purposes. So unashamedly, we have the aim of helping to improve farm profitability and sustainability, and we want to enhance the value and the competitiveness of animal products from Northern Ireland in the international marketplace. So in fulfilling our goals, we want AWNI to be looked on as the centre for coordination and advice for these control programmes. And that is because we're mandated by the stakeholders and the funders. So how does our programme look? Well, we have a tissue tag and test requirement underpinned by legislation, which allows for intensive surveillance of herds at an early stage, and the programme has been compulsory from the 1st of March 2016. I would say that the legislation includes the fact that aborted fetuses and stillbirths must be tested, so I'm interested in hearing Matt's figures. Granted, the 59 or so farmers who replied from Northern Ireland is a very small sample compared to our roughly 19,000 livestock herd keepers. So in terms of awareness of the need to report abortions, I would say that the awareness within the Northern Ireland farming community is actually very high, and partly because of the brucellosis programme that has been in existence, where there was that mandatory and still is that mandatory requirement to report abortions. In addition, we ensure in AWNI that the communications that go out do remind herd keepers of the need to tag and test animals, aborted fetuses, stillbirths, and indeed calves that die before they're tagged, still need to be tagged, and that's part of our programme. So we use a range of designated laboratories. The laboratories must be approved. Again, this is a legislative requirement, and they are approved by DERA. And there are a set of designation criteria which the laboratories must meet, and that we would keep an eye on, and the department as well. We have a central database within AWNI where we store the BVD results, and we draw down the animal identification and registration information from APHIS, which is the Animal and Public Health Information System as run by DERA. We believe it's very important to have all the results in one place for us to manage the programme and to look at how things are going. So under the scheme, only those animals with a negative status are permitted to be sold, to leave the farm, for animals born from the 1st of March 2016 onwards. Test positives can be slaughtered or go to an ACRI, and obviously we have a lifelong status for PI animals, persistently infected animals in existence. There's a 2-for-1 result, that the benefit obviously for the dam with indirect negative status being applied in each case where there's a negative result for the calves. So I would say that we have 4 key pillars of our programme, and those are the stakeholder involvement, which we have excellent involvement there. We have available budget. That's a tricky one, obviously. Ongoing issues.
Not anymore. No.
I think we'll bring you across, Peter, to help us out on that one. That would be nice. So we are depending on industry to provide the funding. The political will does exist, and that's something that we want to keep working on and to promote the need for political involvement and interest in this scheme. I would say that this is a first in many ways because we have a partnership with the department, industry and government working together, and industry is taking the lead, but we're working together to try to eradicate BVD. And again, having individual identification of animals and recording is foundational. So we have a financial support package in existence at the moment, and this has come in through the EU Exceptional Aid Adjustment Scheme. It's in place for a short period of time, from the 1st of February until the 30th of September, to the best of our knowledge this year. And there's legislation in place to back this up. So the payments are made based on the information that's held in APHIS, and there are various eligibility criteria, including the death notification. There's a very tight requirement to have the animals notified as dead within 4 weeks of receiving a positive result, or if a farmer elects to retest the animal, that must be not later than 6 weeks from the date of receiving the result. I would say that uptake of this scheme has been moderate. However, we're glad that that carrot is there, that it exists to incentivise removal of the positive animals. Sorry, there were payments at the bottom of some of the bottom of the slides are missing. The payments are £160 for a beef animal, £130 for a dairy heifer, and £50 for a dairy bull calf. So that's how the payments are structured. So we do have this database which allows us to pull information together from the tag suppliers in terms of uploads, looking at laboratory information and turnaround times. Private vets can access their clients' information if they're given permission. And most importantly, farmers can go on and look at the statuses of individual animals in their herds. So what is the picture so far? Well, we have 18,500 herds participating, very nearly all the herds in Northern Ireland. We reckon almost all the breeding herds should be included in that. Total tests uploaded are over 760,000 from the start of the compulsory programme, with over 735,000 direct negative test results, 372,000 indirect negative test results, and over 4,800 direct positives. So the positive test rate that we've seen from the start of the compulsory scheme is 0.65%, which is the level that we would have expected from looking across the border at our colleagues in the south. The proportion of test positive animals that are retested with positive results is roughly 9 out of every 10 animals is coming back with a positive result on retest, and 64% of initially test positive animals have been retested. If we look back at the first year of the programme, what we found is that 0.4% of animals have actually come back with an empty sample, so no sample, unfortunately, in the little tube that's gone to the laboratory. That information is communicated back to the herd keeper with a recommendation to get a further sample using a supplementary tag or using their vet to get a blood sample taken. And in 2% of cases, no test was carried out. Now, we're very happy with the level of compliance that we have overall, and for the first year of a compulsory programme, we've seen excellent levels of compliance. So there has been no doubt a carryover of non-tissue sample-enabled tags from prior to the compulsory testing date. So we anticipate this level of no tests being carried out actually decreasing. Overall, the prevalence we're seeing is approximately 11% of herds. And in this graph, you can see that we're looking at the percentage of herds with positive results by herd size. So it goes without saying that the larger the herd, the greater the likelihood of having the positive result. And there's a reflection really of animal movements within these herds. If we look at the laboratory turnaround figures, we have targets in place that 95% of samples should be back within 7 days and 99% within 10 working days. So we can see that there's actually excellent compliance overall. There are a few blips, holiday times, probably occurring at these points, but overall, certainly they're achieving the 95% rate overall and very close to the 99% at 10 working days. Our median turnaround time would be 2 days. If we look at the number of calves initially positive or inconclusive per herd, what we're finding overall is that approximately 95% of the positive herds with positives, have 4 or fewer positive calves. But obviously, in every case where there's a herd with a single positive animal, that is critical to that herd. There are a huge range of issues we've obviously had to deal with in this programme bedding in, and I'm just picking out a few high-level examples here. But the main issue that we're having to deal with is the retention of PIs, and that's something that we're going to be focused on very much, and I'll mention that in a moment, over the next year. Data access is another issue. It would be nice to have real-time access to the APHIS information, but again, we're working with government to try to improve data transfer. Resource limitations. Despite recent news, there's not a bottomless pit of money, and we have ideas for the Alwyney database and how to link that with APHIS, but it's going to take money, so we'll have to see what can be done. In terms of communications, we believe that's extremely important in the programme. We have about 74% of farmers currently provide us with a mobile phone number, so we can communicate results directly out to them. We want more to nominate a PVP so that their private vet can access their results and give appropriate advice. And we're trying to improve awareness among farmers that they can go onto our website and access their own herd's results directly. So the successful elements that I would say of our programme so far have been the herd owner compliance, excellent stakeholder support overall, the protocols with the tag suppliers and the laboratories have bedded in very well. The transfer of information to herd owners via text message is well liked, it's welcomed by local farmers. And we have a proposed uptake of the BVD status information at the individual animal level onto APHIS, hopefully within the next 2 months or so. So again, that will be a good benefit, particularly as farmers are well used to using APHIS online and looking at their herd lists, so this information will really be in their faces. We use social media, the website and Twitter, and have had good uptake of that. And the help desk is run by Alwyney staff. From the start of June, we've started a new initiative whereby those staff are contacting the farmers who have positive animals just released or declared to them very recently. So a phone call is made to those farmers and discussions are had about the risks to their herd, biosecurity advice is given, and they're also reminded about the scheme and the money that they can tap into if they get rid of the animal, dispose of the positive animal quickly, as we want them to. So our key proposals, our wish list, if you like, for over the next year and what we're going to work on is to deal with the retention issues, investigate ways where we could have ongoing financial support for the removal of positive animals, and with an eye on what has been happening with Animal Health Ireland, we would like the process of bringing in herd restrictions to start. Obviously that will require legislative change, so we're working with the Department of Agriculture on that, but again that could take a year or longer. We would like to provide biosecurity advice to those herds who are at risk from other herds that are retaining positive animals, so that's being investigated. Heat mapping would allow us to produce some maps displaying the location and the intensity of the BVD positives across Northern Ireland, and that would be a really useful tool for us to pass on in the press to farmers. And we want to lay the foundations for a negative or low risk herd status. We have developed herd investigation training for PVPs and we hope to roll that out within the next few months as well. And just to re-emphasise it, excellent communications between all sectors is something that we're very keen on, and we believe that by working together very closely with all of industry that we can speed up our journey to eradication. So thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a great start. Time for one question. Anyone has a burning question? At the back.
Andrew Loftus, Summer Livestock. Sharon, fascinating. You mentioned several times that farmers could check their own animal status through the APHIS website. as I understand it, on the English database, you can check other owners' animals, if I can put it that way. Is this not a risk, bearing in mind Matt's research showed that 2% of farmers wish to sell them on to someone else? What steps can we put in place so you can check animals' status that you might potentially acquire but you don't own?
Yeah, that's a good question. So what we have in Northern Ireland is a buyer beware scheme. So while farmers can only check the status of their own animals on the database, they can actually print off a declaration of negative results and pass that on to someone who's buying their stock. So the responsibility is also on the buyer to request that information from the seller of the animals. In addition, these new individual animal BVD statuses will be available to the markets. So they will be able to double check that the animals moving through their premises for sale actually have a BVD negative status. But I've certainly been very interested to hear about the facility that you have here for anyone to check up any animal. Looking at that with a little envy, but it's a nice idea. However, we're happy that our scheme does allow people to check out the animals that they're buying, either directly by asking for this negative declaration, or by depend on the marts only allowing in BVD negative stock. Does that answer your question?
Yes, obviously we'd like to go further, but it's you're thinking in the obviously you've got it in hand. I understand there will probably be problems around private data and people allowing private data to be shared, but perhaps existing users could be encouraged to tick those boxes saying they're happy for their data to be shared. It's a fairly minor modification, and those with their heart in this scheme might willingly tick those boxes.
That's something for us to look at. Thank you.